always, from the heart of the city, and now on demand 24/7 on the CHFI website. This is the soundtrack to accompany a writer's wisdom. And I'm Don Jackson, around the world on the internet. First impressions of people we meet are to be distrusted if they remind us too much of someone we already know or have known. For we tend illegitimately to transfer some of our feelings from the familiar to the new, without taking into sufficient account the differences as well as the similarities. The words of Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate. Tonight, this hour, I'd like to feature a few excerpts from some of his published writings, a very unique perspective on life and love for lovers and other strangers, from iTunes and CHFI.com. Ray Charles with Norah Jones in Here We Go Again, James Blunt and You're Beautiful, and Savage Garden and I Knew I Loved You. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This hour, a columnist from some years back who had a very unique perspective on life and love, and who shared that perspective with his readers. His name is Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate. Some of his quotes were also featured in past issues of the Reader's Digest magazine, and it was in some of these very early issues that I first stumbled upon his wisdom. He writes, and I quote, "The paradox of friendship is that it is both the strongest thing in the world and the most fragile. Wild horses cannot separate friends, but whining words can. A man will lay down his life for his friend, but will not sacrifice his eardrums." The words of Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate. Some more of his thoughts shortly with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Fergie and Big Girls Don't Cry, and Sarah McLachlan and Fallen. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This hour, some unique perspectives on life and love, penned by a syndicated newspaper columnist some years back. And I quote, "It is only, perhaps, after you have loved and lost that you can comprehend what it means to another person to love you. Those who have never suffered unrequited love are commonly those who are most insensitive toward the hurt they may inflict on others, and the least appreciative of the gift of love." The words of Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Carole King and It's Too Late, Blue Rodeo with Bad Timing, and Christina Aguilera and Hurt. And I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. This writer had some interesting things to say about marriage as well. Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate wrote, "In one sense, everybody marries for love. And if what he or she loves most is money, or position, or security, or looks, or pleasure-seeking, then this is the love that the marriage is based on. He also wrote, "We speak of a marriage tie, but it is actually more of a belt, which binds if it is too tight and falls if it is too loose, and thus must contain several notches of adjustment to the changing weights and pressures of the relationship." Sidney J. Harris of Field Newspaper Syndicate. Some interesting thoughts on life and love. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. John Lennon just liked starting over, and Paul McCartney and Maybe I'm Amazed. Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. It is impossible to learn anything important about anyone until we get him to disagree with us. It is only in contradiction that character is disclosed. That is why autocratic employers usually remain ignorant about the true nature of their subordinates. Sidney J. Harris from the North America Syndicate. He also wrote, "There is a distinct, if subtle, difference between the cynic and the skeptic. Confronted with something that seems too good to be true, the cynic doubts that it is true, while the skeptic doubts that it is good." Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Divine Brown, To Lay It on the Line, and Bryan Adams, and The Best Was Yet to Come. I'm Don Jackson with Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. To conclude, a powerful thought and something to consider the next time you stand before a mirror. Sidney J. Harris from Field Newspaper Syndicate wrote, "Why is it that we cannot recognize our own voice when we hear it played back on a tape, but we imagine we are seeing our own face when we look at it in a mirror?" Lovers and Other Strangers from iTunes and CHFI.com. Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.